Standard 10th English, subject Social Science, chapter number 8, Natural Resources. Students, in chapter number 1, we became aware about the term natural resources and the things included in it. In this modern world, any country which wants to progress and develop must possess abundant natural resources. So now the question arises, what are the natural resources? Let us try to understand the term resources first. Primitive man was a food gatherer. During that period, he had no other requirements except food to eat and water to drink. So, he could satisfy his needs fully. But as time passed and by his intellect, he started to use many other things than eatables and water, which also could satisfy his needs. These things can be called as resources. To understand the word resources in simple words, all the elements which are utilized by man using his intellect and skills to satisfy his needs can be termed as resources. So it becomes very clear that all the things which are used to fulfill human needs becomes a resource. In modern world or today, we are using many minerals also to satisfy our requirements, which are resources. But because the primitive man had no idea about their use, though they were buried within the land, were not resources for him. Resources are made or are present in the earth's crust because of the interaction of three things: nature, man, and culture. Utility of resources. We can use the resources for three different purposes. Resources are used as food, fruits, crops, milk and milk products, meat obtained through domestic animals, fish, honey, etc. All are used as food items. Resources are a source of raw material. In this modern world, many industries have developed. They cannot produce any item without raw material. Various products from forest, agro products, wool, hide, mineral ore, etc. become a source of raw material for these industries. Resources as energy resources, coal, petroleum, natural gas, etc. are used as fuel in industries. Energy can also be generated through solar insolation, wind, sea waves, tides and ebbs, and waterfalls, etc. So, we became aware about the uses of resources. Now, let us try to understand types of resources. We can also classify the resources. Resources can be classified into three categories. Number one, on the basis of their ownership. Number two, on the basis of reavailability. And number three, on the basis of distribution centers. Students, the table given to us on page number 59 will be helpful to understand all the three different types of resources. Let us try to become familiar with the first table. Ownership. We can classify into three different levels. Number one, individual resource. Number two, national resource. And number three, global resource. Well, it is very simple that individual resource is owned by people themselves, either by an individual or a family. And the examples are land, building, etc. National resources will obviously be owned by a country or a particular region. And the examples are army or international trade. Global resources, all physical or non-physical resources which are used for human welfare throughout the world are termed as global resources. And very simple example that resources which are of common ownership of all the nations of the world are its example. Let us go on the second page. We can also classify the resources on the basis of their distribution. We have four categories: universal resources, generally available resources, rare resources, and solitary resources. Universal resources, which are useful gases in the atmosphere, and examples are gases like oxygen and nitrogen. Second, generally available resources. Well, any resources which are easily available, they all become a part of the generally available resources. And their distribution, the examples are land, soil, water, pasture land, etc. Third, rare resources. Resources which are available only at limited places are termed into rare resources, and the examples are minerals like coal, petroleum, copper, gold, uranium, etc. Solitary resources, the fourth category, it makes very clear that minerals which are available only at one or two places in the world are termed in this category. And the best example is the cryolite, which is available only in Greenland. Other methods to classify resources are renewable resources and non-renewable resources. The resources which are reproducing themselves as per their usage during a specific time, they are inexhaustible. Solar insolation, wind, birds, animals, bioresources, etc. are the examples of these renewable or inexhaustible resources. Mineral, coal, natural gas, petroleum, once used, cannot be produced again, and so they are termed as non-renewable resources. Now, because we saw in the previous part only that if a country wants to progress and develop in a speedy manner, then it must have abundant natural resources. If we are not able to make the maximum use of it, then these resources will be exhausted in a very short period. So, there should be a proper planning as well as conservation of these resources. In earlier period, the uses were very limited, but at present, we are using all the resources in an unlimited manner. So we will have to experience severe implications in the near future if we are not aware at present. So it becomes a moral duty of all the citizens of the world to conserve the resources for future generations. The word conservation directly relates to scarcity of resources. These resources are in a fixed quota. So once they are over, we are not going to get them again and again. If we exploit them haphazardly and irrationally, then the near future will be very, very dangerous. So let us see that what should be done to conserve the resources. What type of planning should be there? There are three stages of planning. First of all, gather information about the availability of these resources, from where we are able to get them, map them, survey. The second stage comes to find out how much stock or quantity is available. If less quantity is available, then we must not go for its exploration. But if it is abundant, then we must explore them and we must try to make use of it. So, if we will do the judicious or the limited use of these resources, then only we will be able to provide these to the near generations also. So, a proper planning is very important for using the resources, utilizing the resources, as well as also we should make a part and parcel that we also have to conserve these resources. Our next point is soil formation. Well, see the simple definition that the part of the surface of the earth wherein the vegetation grows is known as soil. In standard 9, we also became familiar that the upper crust of the earth, known as lithosphere, where the things grow, and that that particles of the lithosphere, which are turned into fragments, are termed as soil. In this soil, minerals, humidity, humus, and air all are mixed up. The parental rock is lying below the soil. It is formed due to the material available through denudation, washing away of land. Biotic remnants, humidity, and air also gets mixed up with it. So, in other words, soil is nothing but a natural mixture of minerals and biotic elements which have the capacity to grow as well as to develop vegetation. Now, what is soil? The uppermost layer of the crust of the earth is called soil, containing minerals and biotic elements, which makes the growth and development of vegetation. This formation of the soil took millions of years, mind well. The climatic impact and the duration of the soil formation is also very important. So, the soil which is formed out of the same parental rock under different climatic conditions is differing from place to place. And so, soils are classified on the basis of their color, climate, parental rock, texture, structure, humus, etc. Now let us try to become aware about the types of soil. The Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, has divided the soils of India into 8 categories. Number 1, alluvial soil. Number 2, red soil. Number 3, black soil. Number 4, laterite soil. Number 5, desert soil. Number 6, mountain soil. Number 7, forest soil. Number 8, marshy or peaty soil. Let us start with the alluvial soil. Well, we know that when a river starts flowing from high mountain from its origin, it flows with a great speed, and whatever comes in its way is either cuts it to make the way or drags the things which come in its way. Mud, humus, washing away of rocks, all these are brought by the gusting water of the river on the level terrain of the plain area. The speed decreases of the water and so it deposits all the materials on the plain surface. These deposits are full of alluvium, so the soil formed due to this process is known as alluvial soil. We find this soil in the northern plain or even Ganga plains, which are spread from Brahmaputra Valley in the eastern region up to Satluj River in Punjab in west. Alluvial soils are also found in the delta regions of Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri. So, we can say that it is spread over about 43% of the land area of the country. In this soil, the content of potash, phosphoric acid, and limestone is more, and content of nitrogen and humus is less. The crops which you can cultivate from this soil are wheat, paddy, sugarcane, jute, cotton, maize, oilseeds, etc. Red soil. The presence of the ferric oxide turns the soil into red color. But as we go deeper, this soil appears yellowish. In this soil, lime, gravel, and carbonate are not found. This soil also lacks magnesium, phosphate, nitrogen, potash. The crops which can be grown are millet, cotton, wheat, jowar, linseed, groundnut, potato, etc. Red soil is spread from Tamil Nadu in the peninsular plateau up to Bundelkhand in the north. We also find this soil from Rajmal hills in the east up to Kutch in the west and also in some parts of Rajasthan. This soil occupies nearly 19% of the total land area. Third type, black soil. Formation of black soil is responsible due to important role played by lava rocks and climate. Black soil was formed due to spreading of Deccan lava. In this soil, there is more proportion of iron, lime, and calcium, potash, aluminium, and magnesium carbonate. So, black soil is considered to be fertile up to larger extent. This soil also has the capacity to retain moisture for a long time. But as the soil dries up, fissures or cracks develop. Black soil is also known as regur soil or black cotton soil. Black soil covers nearly 15% of the total land area. The places where we find this soil are entire Maharashtra, western Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, and certain parts of Karnataka. In our state Gujarat, this soil is found in the districts of Surat, Bharuch, Narmada, Vadodara, Tapi, and Dang. The crops which can be grown are cotton, linseed, mustard, groundnut, tobacco, and urad. Laterite soil. The name laterite only is derived from the Latin word later, meaning a brick. It is red in color due to the presence of iron oxide. Laterite soil contains iron, potash, and aluminium in more amount. This soil develops in areas with high temperature and heavy rainfall. In India, laterite soil covers nearly 10% of the total land area. We are able to find this soil on the summits of Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, including Rajmal Hills, Vindhya, Satpura, and Malwa Plateau. Southern parts of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Orissa, Jharkhand, Kerala. This soil is less fertile, but crops like cotton, paddy, ragi, sugarcane, tea, coffee, cashew nuts, etc. can be grown if the use of fertilizers is made. Desert soil. This type of soil can be found in the areas where the climate is arid or semi-arid, means dry area. The soil is sandy as well as infertile. It is containing more dissolved minerals. So obviously in the Rajasthan area, the western parts of India, that is Haryana and southern Punjab, we find this type of soil. Also in Gujarat, this type of soil is found in Kutch and some parts of Saurashtra. If irrigation facilities are provided, then crops like millet and jowar can be cultivated. Mountain soil. We find this soil in the valley and slopy regions of Himalayas at a height of about 2,700 to 3,000 meters. But the layer is very thin and also it is underdeveloped. So we find this soil in Assam, Darjeeling, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, and Kashmir. In Himalayas, the soil is found at a general altitude in the regions of pine and cheat trees also. Forest soil. with the height of 3000 meters up to 3100 meters in the coniferous forest of Himalaya, Sahyadri, Eastern Ghats, and Terai region of Himalaya, we find this type of soil. As the surface of the earth is covered by the shaded leaves of the trees and the upper part of the land becomes black due to the increase in the humus caused due to the decaying leaves, it changes into blue or red color while going down. Crops like tea, coffee, spices, wheat, maize, barley, paddy, etc. can be grown, and this soil is found in a very limited areas. Marshy or peaty soil. These are soils with large amount of organic matter and considerable amount of soluble salts. The most humid regions have this type of soil. This type of soils are black, heavy, and highly acidic, but they lack potash and phosphate. We find this type of soils in Odisha, West Bengal, coastal Tamil Nadu, central areas of northern Bihar, and Almora districts of Uttarakhand. So we became familiar with different types of soils found in India. Now we will discuss two important concepts: soil erosion and soil conservation. In the previous part of the chapter, we saw that the formation of soil has taken millions of years. But at the same time, due to the washing away or denudation process, this soil also get eroded. In simple terms, erosion means transportation of the land particles from one place to another with the help of two natural factors, wind and water. The formation of the upper layer of the soil takes a long time, and if these particles are carried away because of the heavy rain or by stormy wind, the agricultural production decreases. So it becomes very important and extremely necessary to maintain this upper layer so that the agricultural activities can be continued. And so soil erosion should be prevented as far as possible. The measures to prevent soil erosion: we have to control the grazing activity on the land area. Trees should be planted in contour method in the slopy regions. Also, trees should be planted in the fallow land. Fallow land means where agricultural activities are not carried out. We should construct check dams where there are streams so that the speed of the water is slowed down and this soil does not get eroded. We should cultivate very deeply in the field to reduce the speed of the water. Let us try to become familiar with soil conservation. As we saw that soil is eroded and we have to protect it, conserve it. Let us become familiar with the process of soil conservation. Soil conservation means to prevent soil erosion and to maintain the quality. Different remedies are used at different places in the world according to its location as well as the problem. If we are not able to conserve the soil, then there are chances of the floods, which are enhancing the risk against the life and property. So, soil conservation is very, very important and very much necessary also. What are the remedies of soil conservation? The roots of the trees in forest cover hold up the soil particles. So we should plant more and more trees in the river gorges and on the mountain slopes. Also, a series of trees should be grown near a desert region so as to prevent the winds with more velocity, which will stop carrying away the sand particles from one place to another, from dry area to the rich soil area. The river flood should be controlled by diverting their flow in other rivers or in dry river beds. The unrestricted pasturing of the animals will be loosen the soil layer of the mountain, and so it should be prevented up to some extent. Different methods like horizontal cultivation, terraced farming should be implemented. Also, humus content should be added to the soil which has lost its fertility every now and then. If we will implement these remedies, then soil will be conserved, and conservation of soil is a strong necessity for today's world. The government, the society, and the people will have to work together unitedly for soil conservation process. So we end this chapter here.